All right guys, so the newest Galaxy phone is here, and I'm not talking about the Fold. This is the Galaxy S25 Edge, and it's probably the opposite of the Fold since I think this might be one of the thinnest Galaxy devices we've ever seen. And we caught a glimpse of this back during the last Unpacked event. There were people swarming that area. There was a lot of hype, but finally we got our hands on it, and here's everything you need to know. So obviously it's thin, but this S25 Edge is going to come in a few colors. We're looking at titanium silver, icy blue, and jet black. Now there won't be any exclusive colors on Samsung's website, so these three are gonna be the only options. And I gotta say, that icy blue is pretty reminiscent of the silver blue that we saw on the S25 Ultra, but it's actually quite a bit lighter. The S25 Edge has a 6.7-inch display, just like the Galaxy S25 Plus, and the specs of the display are pretty much exactly the same. From the size, to the resolution, to the brightness, it all falls in line with what we see with the others in the S25 lineup. What is different here though is, while this is a Corning Gorilla Glass Ceramic 2 display just like the others, you're not going to find the anti-glare properties on this one, but the durability remains the same. Now this does have the same titanium frame like the others, although this one is obviously much thinner. On the right side, we have our power button and volume controls, and the antenna is on the left side, while the USB and the SIM card slot can be found at the bottom. Now on the back of the phone, you'll notice only 2 camera lenses. What's surprising here though is that this thing is packing the 200 megapixel wide angle lens that we found with the S25 Ultra. And within the camera app, you can zoom in up to 10 times without losing any optical quality. So this is kind of similar to what we're seeing Apple do with the different focal lengths while using the same lens. Now it's also paired with this 12 megapixel ultra wide lens, so you can get those really wide like landscape shots, or maybe even use them for macro shots. So that has to be there. And up front, we've got a 12 megapixel front facing camera. But now we've got to talk about specs. So what's powering this guy is the Snapdragon 8 Elite, made for Galaxy devices. And this means, they worked with Snapdragon to optimize the experience for these phones, and we've already got some experience with this chip and it works really well. Now we're also going to be seeing 12 gigs of RAM and your choice between 256 or 512 gigs of storage. And we're looking at a 3900 milliamp hour battery. Now this, and maybe there being less camera lenses, is probably the biggest caveat on paper. It's a slightly smaller battery than what you have on the base S25. Now this makes complete sense considering it's so much slimmer. I think we could all see that that was going to be the trade-off here, but I am curious about how this battery will impact daily use. But I haven't had a chance to use the base S25, so I don't really have that knowledge to work off. But if you guys want to see how this thing holds up in a real day in the life, you guys let me know with a comment down below, and subscribe so you don't miss when that drops. Now it does have fast charging, so you can get up to 55% in about 30 minutes. And you also have fast wireless charging. And I'd say this phone sits right between the S25 Plus and the S25 Ultra in terms of everything it brings to the table, the specs, and honestly even the price. But what makes it unique obviously is going to be that form factor. And based on everything I've seen so far, it feels like the S25 Edge is meant for the power user who maybe doesn't really care about the S Pen or having a much bigger display. Now for me, this is one of those devices you really kind of have to see it in person to see if it's worth making the trade-off in battery life because of how different it feels compared to the rest, while also kind of feeling familiar. I actually kind of like the feel of walking around with this in my limited time of usage with it, and even how it felt being able to just throw it into my pocket. Because it's a big, powerful phone without the bulk that usually comes with. Now durability is going to be interesting to see since it's such a thin device, but maybe that titanium frame is going to, kind of keep it all together. I could imagine myself using it on a daily basis with no problem. And funny enough, the edges actually aren't that sharp as like the Galaxy S25 Ultra. They're definitely a bit more rounded. I wouldn't complain if the corners were a bit sharper like the S25 Ultra, but it's probably best for the hand-holding experience that maybe the edges aren't that sharp. Now the S25 Edge doesn't really differentiate itself when it comes to software. You're getting the same Android 15 with One UI 7, as well as all those dope Galaxy AI features that the rest of the lineup has. So its differentiator is straight up hardware. So really, that's the S25 Edge in a nutshell. If you guys want to see the real day in the life, let me know with a thumbs up on this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Let me know your thoughts. Peace.